A powerful billionaire quietly trailed his pregnant housekeeper one evening. What he uncovered that night would change his life forever. For weeks, he had been watching her. Every day, without fail, she disappeared exactly at 5 p.m. No extra minutes, no explanations, just gone. His sharp, calculating mind immediately assumed the worst. He imagined hidden schemes, stolen valuables, or some secret she was desperate to protect. So one night, driven by suspicion, he decided to follow her. He expected to catch her in a lie. What he found instead left him speechless. Behind one of his own luxury buildings, on a patch of cold, unforgiving concrete, his pregnant maid lay sleeping with nothing but a thin jacket for warmth. In that moment, the walls of his perfectly ordered world came crashing down. Before we go deeper into this story, pause for a second. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe now. Let's begin. Daniel Harper was not a man who believed in kindness. He believed in numbers. As the ruthless CEO of Harper Properties, everything in his life was measured in profit margins and performance charts. Buildings were assets. Employees were tools. If something didn't deliver results, it was replaced. That mindset had turned him into a billionaire before his 35th birthday. Cold logic was his religion, and emotions had no seat at his table. But recently, something had disrupted his flawless system. Her name was Emily. Emily worked quietly inside his towering penthouse. She was in her late 20s, soft-spoken, always professional, always respectful. She moved through his sleek glass home almost invisibly, dressed neatly in her black uniform and white apron. To Daniel, she had always been just another employee. Efficient, reliable, replaceable. But lately, she had changed. She was pregnant. 7 months, maybe more. Daniel began noticing things he had never paid attention to before. From behind his office desk, pretending to be absorbed in paperwork, he watched her struggle in silence. He saw her wince when she bent down. He noticed how she paused in the hallway, pressing a hand against her aching back, squeezing her eyes shut in pain before forcing a calm expression back onto her face the moment she thought he might be looking. "Is everything okay, Mr. Harper?" she would ask politely, trying to sound composed. "Fine, Emily." "Everything is fine," he would answer, barely glancing up. But nothing about it was fine. Other strange details began to bother him. Expensive catered meals were constantly delivered to his office for meetings with executives. Trays filled with gourmet sandwiches, pastries, and imported delicacies often went untouched. Normally, they ended up in the trash. Yet recently, they had started disappearing. No leftovers, no waste. And then there was the time issue. Every single day, Emily left at exactly 5 p.m. Not a minute earlier, not a minute later. It wasn't enthusiasm to clock out. It wasn't laziness. It was urgency. He could see it in the way she moved. Each step seemed painful, her swollen feet and tired body fighting against exhaustion. She rushed out the door not because she wanted to, but because she had to. Whatever waited for her after work clearly couldn't wait. And Daniel Harper, a man who trusted no one and questioned everything, was about to find out why. On a gray Tuesday near the end of October, Daniel's curiosity finally overpowered his rigid logic. The afternoon air was sharp and restless, the kind that hinted winter was creeping closer. Sunlight slipped between the tall buildings, painting the streets in long streaks of gold and shadow. From the balcony of his penthouse, Daniel watched as Emily stepped out of the service entrance right at 5 o'clock, just like she always did. But something about that day felt different. She didn't head toward the subway. She didn't move in the direction of the bus stop either. Instead, she paused, adjusted the worn straps of her backpack, pulled her thin sweater tightly around her swollen stomach, and quietly walked deeper into the heart of the city. Without thinking too hard about it, Daniel reached for his coat. He didn't summon his chauffeur. He didn't bother grabbing his car keys. He simply rode the elevator down, walked out into the busy street, and began following her on foot. He kept a careful distance, trying not to look obvious. The whole situation felt absurd. A billionaire executive, dressed in an expensive tailored suit, secretly trailing his pregnant housekeeper through crowded sidewalks. Yet something inside him refused to turn back. Emily moved slowly, as if every step required real effort. Her walk was uneven, heavy with fatigue. Now and then she paused to rest against a building, catching her breath, rubbing her back, steadying herself before continuing again. Around her, the city rushed on without noticing. People hurried past, glued to their phones, blind to the quiet struggle happening just inches away from them. She didn't travel far. After a few blocks, she turned into a narrow alley tucked behind a row of upscale stores. Daniel recognized the place immediately. He owned it. One of his properties stood there, housing an expensive designer boutique. He stopped at the corner and carefully peered around the brick wall, trying to understand what she was doing. At the far end of the alley was a small loading dock, sheltered by a metal awning. It was hidden from the street, protected from the wind, and strangely peaceful. Emily walked toward it with familiar steps, as if she had done this many times before. She didn't knock on any door. She didn't meet anyone. She simply slipped off her heavy backpack and set it gently on the concrete ground. Then Daniel watched in disbelief. She reached behind a trash bin and pulled out a crumpled piece of cardboard she had clearly stored there ahead of time. Carefully, she flattened it on the cold floor. From her bag, she took out a thin, faded blanket and folded it into a small cushion. With a tired sigh, she lowered herself onto it, wincing as her aching body settled. The powerful businessman stood frozen, barely breathing. From her backpack, Emily pulled out a small napkin-wrapped bundle, holding it gently in her hands like something precious. And Daniel realized, with a sinking feeling in his chest, that he was about to learn a truth he was never prepared to face. Inside the small napkin bundle was a simple turkey sandwich, leftovers from Daniel's business lunch earlier that day. Emily unwrapped it carefully and began to eat in slow, deliberate bites, as if it were something special. She didn't rush. She savored it. Every crumb that fell onto her apron, she gently picked up and finished. If you've fallen in love with this story already, kindly smash that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories. Let's continue. Daniel stared in disbelief from the shadows of the alley. His mind tried desperately to make sense of what he was seeing. This couldn't be right. He had assumed she was rushing home every evening. But now the painful truth was clear. She wasn't heading to an apartment. She wasn't going back to a family. This cold, hidden loading dock behind an expensive boutique was her home. 3 blocks away from his luxurious penthouse, a woman who worked for him was surviving on concrete. Without fully thinking it through, Daniel stepped forward. The sound of his shoes against loose gravel echoed down the narrow alley. Emily froze. Her head shot up, eyes wide with fear. The moment she recognized him, the sandwich slipped from her hands and hit the ground. "Mr. Harper," she gasped, panic flooding her voice. She scrambled backward in terror, pressing herself against the brick wall. Instinctively, her arms wrapped around her swollen belly as if to protect the life inside her. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," she stammered. "I was just resting, I swear. I'll leave right now. Please don't call the police." She tried to stand, but exhaustion and shock made her stumble. "Emily, stop," Daniel said quickly. He moved toward her, reaching out to help steady her. She flinched away from his hand, trembling from head to toe. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered. "I know I'm not supposed to be here. I just got so tired. I'll go. I promise I'll leave right now." "Sit down," Daniel said firmly. His tone wasn't harsh, but it was heavy with emotion. "Sir, Sit down, Emily." Slowly, shakily, she lowered herself back onto the makeshift bed of cardboard and thin blanket. Her entire body was shaking. Daniel stood there, taking in the heartbreaking scene. The worn-out blanket, the bottle of water, the empty space that passed for a bed, the tiny scraps of food she clung to for survival. "How long?" he asked quietly, unable to look at her. Emily kept her eyes on the ground. 3 weeks, she whispered. Daniel turned sharply toward her. "You've been sleeping out here for 3 weeks? While pregnant?" She nodded, her voice barely audible. "It's safe here," she said softly. "The security guard knows me. He lets me stay as long as I'm gone before morning. It's better than the shelters. The shelters are full or dangerous. I can't risk something happening to the baby. I just can't." Daniel swallowed hard. "Where is your apartment?" he asked. "Where is your husband?" The question hung in the cold air, heavy with answers Daniel wasn't ready to hear. Emily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "David died in July," she said softly. "A car accident." Daniel felt a heavy chill settle deep in his chest. July. He remembered that month. She had asked for time off, and he had approved it without questions. He hadn't asked what happened. He had simply written personal leave on her file and moved on with his life. "And the apartment?" he asked quietly. "Evicted," Emily replied. "After the funeral costs, I didn't have enough savings left. Then the rent went up." "The rent went up," Daniel repeated. "Yes. The building was sold to a new company in August. They sent a letter saying the rent was being adjusted to market rates. It increased by $600 a month. I couldn't pay it. I tried to explain, but they said it was an automated system. They gave me 30 days to move out." "Which building?" Daniel asked. A sick, uneasy feeling began twisting inside him. "The Cedar Arms on 4th Street." Daniel closed his eyes and took a slow, shaky breath. Harper Properties had purchased Cedar Arms in August. He remembered the meeting clearly. His vice president had shown him a spreadsheet and said, "If we raise rents 20% across the board, we can push out lower-income tenants and renovate for a younger, wealthier demographic." Daniel had studied the numbers. The profits looked excellent. He had signed the authorization without a second thought. "I did this," he whispered. Emily looked up at him, confused. "Sir." "I own Cedar Arms," Daniel said. He forced himself to really look at her for the first time. "My company bought it in August. I approved the rent increase." Emily stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The expression on her face wasn't anger. It was something deeper and worse. A silent, crushing realization. The man she worked for was the reason she had nowhere to live. "I didn't know," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "I only saw numbers. I never saw you." "I wrote a letter," Emily whispered. "I sent it to management explaining that I was pregnant, that my husband had just died, and asking for more time." "I never saw it," Daniel admitted. "My staff filters things like that, so I can stay focused and efficient." Efficient. The word suddenly felt sickening. His so-called efficiency had taken a grieving woman's home and left her sleeping on cold concrete while carrying a child. Daniel stared up at the evening sky as the wind grew stronger. "Get your things," he said quietly. "What?" "Pack your bag, Emily. We're leaving." "Mr. Harper, please, I can't lose this job," she pleaded, tears filling her eyes again. "If you fire me, I have nothing. I have nowhere to go." "I'm not firing you," Daniel said sharply, anger burning in his voice, though not at her. "But you are not staying here. Not tonight. Not ever again." He bent down and lifted her backpack. It was heavier than he expected. He imagined her carrying it every day, along with the weight of her pregnancy, walking those long blocks just to hide her situation from him. "Come with me," he said. "Where are we going?" "To my home. The guest wing is empty. There's a Rayal bed, heat, and a door that locks." "I can't stay with you, sir. It wouldn't be right." "What isn't right," Daniel replied firmly, "is that I have 5 unused bedrooms while my housekeeper sleeps in an alley because I wanted higher profits." He held out his hand. Emily hesitated, glancing at his perfectly groomed fingers and then at her own worn, tired hand. Slowly, she reached out and took it. He helped her to her feet. She looked exhausted and unsteady. "Can you walk?" he asked gently. "Yes, I think so." "Then we'll take it slow." They walked back to the penthouse in silence. This time, Daniel didn't walk ahead of her. He stayed at her side, shielding her from the cold wind as they moved through the busy streets. When they entered the lobby, the concierge looked at Emily's rumpled clothes with open disapproval. "Mr. Harper," he said cautiously, "is everything all right? Should I have her escorted out?" If you speak to her with anything less than complete respect, Daniel said coldly, you will be unemployed by morning. Now open the elevator. The concierge turned pale and quickly stepped aside. Upstairs, Daniel guided Emily into the guest suite. He opened the door to a room so elegant and expensive that it cost more to furnish than most people earned in an entire year. The bathroom is right there, he told her. There are fresh towels. Anything you need from the kitchen, just ask. I'll have dinner prepared for you immediately. Emily remained frozen in the center of the room, gripping her thin sweater tightly. She stared at the soft bed as if she couldn't believe it was real. Mr. Harper, she whispered, her voice shaking, I don't know how I could ever repay you for this. You won't, Daniel answered without hesitation. Tomorrow, we are going to make things right. I'm giving you back your apartment, not as a tenant, but as the owner. I'm removing the managers who ignored your message, and we will talk about a salary that truly matches everything you do. Tears filled Emily's eyes once more. This time they weren't tears of fear, but tears of pure relief. Why? She asked softly. Why are you doing all this now? Because, Daniel replied quietly, I finally understood that wealth means nothing if it makes you unable to see people. The next day, Daniel did far more than return one woman's home. He changed the entire system inside his company, rewriting policies to protect struggling tenants. He dismissed the officials who had overlooked Emily's cry for help and replaced them with leaders who valued compassion over cold numbers. A few months later, when baby David was born, Daniel wasn't sitting in some high-level business meeting. He was waiting at the hospital. As he gently held the newborn in his arms, he realized something important. His fortune had built skyscrapers and offices, but Emily had built a life through nothing but strength and heart. For years, he had viewed the world from the top floor, far above everyone else. But only after stepping into a quiet, forgotten alley did he finally learn how to truly see. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories.